Hi, movie reviews here. Today, I'm going to explain a drama, fantasy, and horror film called Dark Spell. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. At a dress shop, Jinya fixes a bridal gown for Sonia, who is excited about her wedding day. She asks Jinya about her wedding, but she admits she hasn't had one. Sonia's fiancé, Victor, peers in, despite being warned that it's bad luck. Jinya's daughter, Paulina, starts fussing in her stroller, but Victor offers to tend to her so Jinya can continue working on the dress. Sonia thinks of it as Victor practicing to become a father. That evening, Jinya takes care of Paulina while trying to contact her partner. When he doesn't answer her calls, Jinya heads to his studio, only to catch him with another woman. Immediately, Jinya walks out and her partner, Kira, yells at her for going there. The next day, Jinya can't help but weep over what happened while at work. Her colleague, Kate, notices, so Jinya shares what happened. Kate advises her to pretend like nothing happened so Kir will love her more. At home, Jinya finds Kira's sketches of his other woman, making her cry again. Her mother, who's watching the baby, tells her to stop tormenting herself since she can't force Kira to stay with her. Jinya mourns over the idea of Paulina growing up without a father, but her mother insists that she can't force Kira to love her again unless she casts a spell on him. Soon, Jinya goes to Kira's parents' house to drop off his belongings because he's been ignoring her calls. Kira's mother, Elena, smugly hints that Jinya should always know where Kira is and who he's with. Later, Jinya finally catches Kir as he's leaving his studio. Still hoping to save their relationship, Jinya allows him to see other women, but Kira insists that he doesn't want to be with her anymore, adding that she doesn't own him just because he got her pregnant. Enraged, Jinya hits Kira, but he pushes her off. After wiping his bloody nose with a handkerchief, he throws it at Jinya and leaves. Jinya then picks up the bloodied handkerchief, driven to take her last resort. That evening, Jinya visits a gypsy named Aza. While carving meat, Aza asks Jinya if she wants to be with Kira forever, to which Jinya nods. Aza stresses that Jinya needs to find someone who's about to get married and whose love is strong. As she arranges a few materials, she warns Jinya not to trick the spirits. She gives her instructions to perform in a church during a wedding but warns her that if her and Kira's love is fake, the spirits won't forgive her. Suddenly, Aza slices Jinya's palm and shoves a piece of raw meat onto her hand. She tells her that her blood will strengthen the spell, but she must cast it until the meat spoils. Frightened, Jinya grabs the other materials and rushes out. Days later, guests arrive at a church for Sonia's wedding. Among them is Oleg, whom Sonia isn't pleased to see. While the wedding begins, Jinya sneaks into the church attic and starts the spell, joining 2 candles as she chants to bind herself and Kira forever. She then drops her blood into the handkerchief with Kira's blood, then burns it. To complete the spell, she eats a piece of the rotten raw meat, forcing herself not to spit it out. As the guests applaud the newly wedded couple, Jinya races out of the church but collapses in front of the bride and groom. Later, Sonia waits at the hospital after rushing Jinya there. Oleg joins her, and she cries on his shoulders, thinking that the event was bad luck. Meanwhile, Jinya wakes up on the hospital bed just as Victor, who's a doctor, checks on her. Jinya insists on going home, but Victor declines since they need to observe her condition until tomorrow. Jinya then apologizes for ruining their wedding, but Victor just tells her to rest. As he's leaving, Victor hears moaning from the supply closet and finds Sonia making out with Oleg. That evening, Jinya wakes up to the window suddenly opening. She closes it but notices mud on the windowsill. When she turns, she finds Kira, who finally asks for her forgiveness. Realizing that the spell worked, Jinya accepts him, and the two sneak out of the hospital to make love in his studio. The next morning, Kira gets inspired by her beauty, so he has Jinya stand by the light as he draws her. Flattered with the attention he's giving her, Jinya smiles. Later, Kira and Jinya head to her mother's house, where a window was broken during the storm last night. Kira quietly boards up the window while Jinya invites her mother to stay with them until it's repaired. When Jinya leaves to get Paulina, Kira tells her mother that she'd bother them if she moved in, so she declines Jinya's offer. One day, Kira sculpts Jinya, but he struggles to get her features right since she's perfect in real life. Jinya insists that she must go to work, but Kira argues that work distracts her. He lathers plaster on her face to create a mold, but Paulina starts crying. Since Jinya can't see and move, Kira puts Paulina's stroller away, and soon, the crying stops. He then puts away the sheet over Jinya's body and gets on top of her. Though Jinya can't see or speak, Kira gets intimate with her again. When Jinya returns to work, she finds Sonia trying to return her wedding dress. Seeing her, Sonia gets pissed, blaming her for Victor dumping her before walking out. Confused, Jinya tries to call Aza, but when she leaves a voicemail, a distorted voice reminds her that Kira is hers now. Suddenly, her stomach starts to hurt, only stopping when she hears someone crying behind the clothes racks. She searches the racks and finds a bride between some clothes. She turns the bride, finding that she's hanged by her neck. Suddenly, the bride tries to grab Jinya, so she backs away with a gasp, only to find that the bride has disappeared. Jinya returns home that night but finds no one there, so she heads to Kira's studio, where she sees multiple sculptures of her face. Finally, she finds Paulina abandoned on a pile of bags. Kira arrives, and Jinya scolds him for leaving the baby. He excuses that he was busy, but Jinya berates him, questioning if he actually loves them. Kira assures her that he loves her, but she's always busy, so he urges her to eliminate everything unnecessary. He tells her that he doesn't want to share her with anyone, but Jinya argues that she's not his property. He insists that she's his wife, but she reminds him that she's not. Angry, Kira stabs one of the sculpted faces, making Jinya back away. Seeing her scared, he apologizes and hugs her. One day, Victor arrives at the shop to return the refund for the wedding dress despite Sonia returning it. Jinya asks what happened, feeling guilty for ruining the wedding, but Victor tells her it doesn't matter. Admiring a dress she made, Victor holds Jinya's hand, complimenting how she loves what she does. Realizing what he's doing, Victor pulls away awkwardly. When he leaves, another set of hands suddenly grabs Jinya, so she pulls away. An immense pain makes her double over, so Victor takes her to his car to get her home. However, Kira suddenly appears and kicks Victor down. Jinya tries to stop him, but he pushes her off. Victor then pins him against the car, allowing Jinya to explain the situation. Defeated, Kira surrenders, so Victor releases him and gives him some gauze before driving off. Wrapping his knuckles with the gauze, Kira apologizes, but Jinya just tells him to take her to her mother's house to pick up Paulina. Instead of her mother's house, however, Kira takes her to his parents. They join Kira's parents over dinner, where Kira takes the blame for ruining his and Jinya's relationship. However, he assures his parents that they're working on it, so he proposes to Jinya. Stunned, Jinya wants time to think, which makes Elena laugh. Kira slams the table to stop his mother, insisting that Jinya can do what she wants. He then asks for his mother's ring, but Elena refuses since it's a family heirloom that should be given to someone she thinks is worthy. Quietly, Kira gets up, grabs the dining scissors, and cuts off her finger to get the ring. His father tries to stop him, but he beats him up. In shock, Jinya backs away, but Kira kneels before her and places the ring on her finger. Taking this opportunity, Kira's father knocks him down, telling Jinya to escape. Jinya rushes to the gate, but it closes on her. Kira corners her, asking if she's heading to Paulina. When she asks if Paulina is with her mother, Kira pauses. He then takes her back to his studio, where Paulina is left in a tub. While she holds their daughter, Kira insists that they belong only to each other, but Jinya clarifies that she doesn't want it like this. Out of options, Jinya confesses to casting a spell on Kira to make him love her, but he doesn't believe her and knocks her out instead. Soon, Jinya wakes up in the tub with her body covered in plaster, while Kira also pours plaster over Paulina in a basin. Determined to save her daughter, Jinya struggles free, and when Kira looks back, she's gone. Kira searches for her, but Jinya knocks him out and escapes with Paulina. She runs into a busy street where a woman nearly runs her over. Seeing her condition, the woman gives her a ride, but Kira speeds through the highway to catch up to them. Finding Jinya, he knocks on the driver's window, but she speeds up instead. Still, Kira continues his pursuit, So the driver heads towards a fork in the highway and makes a sharp turn to lose him. With no one else to turn to, Jinya ends up at Victor's house. After washing the plaster off herself, she finds Victor asleep with Paulina in his arms. The next day, Jinya wakes up with Paulina at her side and finds Victor getting ready for work. Jinya feels guilty about involving him, but Victor waves off her concerns and advises her to rest. At the hospital, Sonia approaches Victor, begging for a chance to explain. However, he ignores her, and even his colleague, Cole, helps him avoid her. While on the elevator, Victor notices a covered body they're transporting. Cole tells him that it's a motorcyclist who suffered a nasty head injury. When the elevator shakes, a hand slips out of the cover, and Victor recognizes the leather jacket and bandaged knuckles. He lifts the cover and recognizes Kira under it. In his apartment, Jinya wakes up to something falling. She picks up an apple that fell from the fruit bowl but notices the stain on the windowsill. Hearing something from the bathroom, she cautiously opens the shower curtain but finds it empty. When she turns, Kira is at the door, holding Paulina. The door slams shut, and when Jinya opens it, she finds Paulina still on the couch where she left her. Victor arrives, and Jinya tearfully tells him that Kira was there. However, Victor reveals that Kira is dead. Once she sees Kira's body in the morgue, Jinya turns away in tears and asks for some privacy. While alone, Jinya recalls dodging him on the highway, where he likely crashed. Guilty over what the spell did, she apologizes when he suddenly grabs her and opens his eyes. Kira then pulls her into the drawer and shuts it close. Inside, Jinya bangs on the door while Kira gets up. His stiff, broken body slowly approaches Jinya, but she forces the door open and escapes. Later, Victor assures her that what she saw was just her mind playing tricks due to the stress and emotion. She moves to leave, but suddenly feels pain in her stomach. Sonia finds them, accusing Jinya visits Victor too often. Despite this, Jinya walks away and apologizes to Sonia. Still pissed, Sonia yells at her, but Victor quietly tells her that Jinya's partner just died. On the way to Oz's place, Jinya confesses to Victor about casting the love spell during their wedding. She now understands that her and Kir's love wasn't true, so the spell turned into a nightmare. They confront Ozza to ask how to fix things, but Ozza doesn't know how. Instead, she advises Jinya to ask the demon that created the spell by using Victor. Despite being skeptical, Victor helps Ozza prepare a ritual while Jinya waits in another room. Suddenly, Victor finds himself alone in the room. Behind him, a cloth rises then covers his face, choking him. Meanwhile, Jinya hears Ozza call someone Master, and another voice invites her inside. As Jinya approaches, the voice comes from Victor's body. Ozza asks what he needs from Jinya, and he answers that he needs her soul because she promised it to him. The demon then approaches a mirror quietly and shatters it. He takes a shard to Victor's throat, so Jinya jumps in to save Victor. However, the demon pins her to the floor, and Jinya struggles to hold his arm to keep him from stabbing her. Suddenly, Oz's mother arrives and casts away the demon using a staff. When Victor recovers later, he decides not to get involved any further despite Jinya's pleas for his help. Later that evening, Sonia has fallen asleep on a hospital bench, waiting for Victor, when someone puts a jacket over her. When she wakes up, she finds that it's Oleg and tells him to leave. Victor catches them together, but only asks Sonia to talk privately. At the same time, Jinya goes to the church, still determined to fix things. Earlier, Oz's mother told her that her marriage was blessed by the devil, but he could still be tricked. She instructed Jinya to reenact the wedding, but in reverse. However, she needs to bring all who were involved, and they must be there of their free will. Meanwhile, Victor shares that he thought getting married and having a family was the right thing to do. However, he didn't really love Sonia and knows that Sonia didn't love him either. Since their love wasn't true, he believes that their marriage was hopeless. Victor considers helping Jinya and shares her story with Sonia, but she refuses, still blaming Jinya for ruining her wedding. She storms off and finds Oleg waiting for her, only to discover that it's Kir who attacks her. When Victor and Oleg find her, Kir has disappeared. At the church, Jinya prepares to reverse the spell but notices someone watching her. She approaches the figure and finds that it's just a rack for the priest's cassock. To ease her fears, Jinya throws the cassock over the rack to make it less human-looking. However, when she turns back, it's back to its position. She approaches it, and a hand grabs her. A black fabric then covers her face, making her collapse and choke. Fortunately, Oz's mother arrives and casts the demon away just as Victor, Sonia, and Oleg arrive. Meanwhile, at Jinya's mother's house, the nails on the boarded window start coming apart. At the church, they begin reenacting both the wedding and the spell in reverse. As she separates the joined candles, pain suddenly fills Jinya, and an invisible force throws her back. The others watch as Jinya's body is lifted in the air, then dropped. At the same time, her mother wakes up and checks on Paulina but finds the crib empty. Hearing her cries, she checks under the crib but spots Kir landing from the window. Back at the church, Victor checks on Jinya, but Sonia suddenly appears at the other end of the aisle, laughing while holding the joined candles. She snuffs out their flames, then jumps over and chokes Victor, so the old gypsy tries to cast out the demon again. This time, the demon uses magic to break her staff and stab her with it. Oleg pulls Sonia off of Victor then restrains her. The gypsy then pulls herself back up and casts out the demon, which finally works. However, when Sonia speaks, her voice is like Jinya's mother's. She announces that Paulina is missing before collapsing. Hearing this, Jinya hurries to her mother's house with Victor, but finds it empty, except for a plaster mask. Figuring out the clue, the two head to Kir's studio, where they find Jinya's mother, whose feet are nailed to the floor. Paulina cries from somewhere, so Jinya searches for her while Victor frees her mother. As Jinya searches, the statues begin moving. Still, she fights her way until she finds Paulina with her mother under a table. Finally, the illusion breaks, and Victor finds himself face to face with Kira, who throws him back. Victor stabs him with a chisel, but it doesn't even make Kira flinch. He then slams a rock repeatedly against Kira's head until his skull breaks, revealing an empty shell inside. Kir chokes Victor, so Jinya finally surrenders her soul to save him. Kira disappears, and Jinya finds a tub filled with plaster beside her. Knowing what to do, Jinya assures Victor that everything will be okay before submerging herself into the tub. As she drowns, she pictures a different reality where she raises Paulina happily with Victor. On the other side, Jinya finally walks down the aisle in a black wedding dress. With his sculptures as their guests, she meets Kira at the altar. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please do like and subscribe for more videos like this.